Hello and welcome to the Agile Couple podcast. We're very excited to do our very first kind of virtual interview with one of our most favorite people. I'm Leanne McManus. I'm going to hand it over to my co-host.
And I am Kevin McManus, and we are very excited today to be interviewing Miss Camila Marquez, also known as Cami. And it's going to be kind of a free range type of conversation. We've got some specific areas we want to talk about. With that being said, I'll turn it back to you, Leanne.
Great. Well, Cami, our episode title today, after talking to you so many times, tell us about who Cami is, and then tell me what, when you hear stop starting and start finishing, what comes to mind. So introduce yourself first.
All right. So first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here. So the title is very interesting. I'm one of those persons that do so many things. I like to do new things, try new things. I have written books. I have recorded music for Spotify. I had a YouTube channel. I like to draw. I learn enquadernation to build my own books, binding my own, stationary items. So right now I'm starting to learn ice skating, and a lot of people think, well, you need to do that when you're a child. I'm 31 actually, and I just decided that I want to learn to do ice skating. So I'm taking lessons for that. So I think I'm kind of prepared to talk on the topic of finishing stuff, especially since a lot of people had ADHD or difficult paying attention or difficult focusing, and I'm one of those people. So I have a lot of difficult focusing. So I think I have really good tips and tricks to help people if they want to be able to finish projects.
Good, because that's literally the when I first met Cami several years ago, just learning, because I have kids around your age, right? And you remind me of a younger me, but when I was older. I don't think I was there yet at your age, if that makes sense, right? But all of the things that you've done, I just feel like, and whenever I explain you to people, I'm always like, oh my gosh, Cami, she like sets a goal, she hits it. Every time I was with you, I would learn something else about what? You also are on Spotify. What? You wrote a novel and self-published? What? Like and honestly, the way that I first got to know you was from the tech world, right? So we all work on a technical project together. Everybody knows Cami as being an expert in all of these technologies. And that was the first bit of me getting to know that about you. Because you said to me, for this project, we have to use Python and we use Java and we use React and all of these different languages. And I thought you were a Python and a React guru, like you'd been using it for years. And do you remember what you told me?
Yeah, I just learned it for the course.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, me too, but I'm by no means an expert in it. So that was kind of the beginning of I'm intrigued with Camila. Like, I love you. And I think it's a whole mindset thing. So that's kind of what we wanted to chat about today. So let me ask you this. So, because to me, there's a lot of things that come into it. There's mindset, there's maybe a little bit of your personality, your traits. But to me, it's about discipline. So, and your habits. So have you always been disciplined, or how did you get to this point? Was there something particular, a turning point that happened, or when did this start for you?
Not at all. I was kind of the opposite. When I was a child, school was pretty easy for me. So I didn't have the habit of studying. I didn't have any discipline whatsoever. But then, and I was in very poor schools, like academically poor schools, so they weren't challenging to me. And being a smart person, not to brag, but it wasn't a challenge to me. So I never had to be disciplined in anything, really. And then for high school, I applied and entered to an excellency school that was very, very academically demanding. And I realized that I was so behind from all of my peers. So everyone has a certain level, and I was behind in everything, especially in math. I didn't know anything of what I was supposed to know. And the first test I took, I had like a 0 point. first time in my life. For someone that always aced everything, straight A's, having 0 points was groundbreaking for me. And I was like, I need to fix this. And when I tried to fix it, when I started trying to study, I realized I didn't know how. I didn't know how to get to that point. It was very frustrating. I cry a lot. It made me feel less. It made me feel stupid. It made me feel bad with myself. And that obviously affected my self-esteem a lot. My whole sense of self kind of shattered, because when you are kind of the smart kid, you build an identity surrounding that.
Yes.
And then that came out like a lie. So I needed to rebuild myself. And if I didn't made it to the standard that everyone else was, I was going to be kicked out of the school. It was very demanding that way. So I had to do it. I had to be very strategic about it. Okay, how am I going to do it? How am I going to learn this? So I think that was kind of the turning point in which I had to start thinking very thoroughly about it. I think most people, my mom, for example, didn't teach me any discipline, because my mom is the most ADHD person that you're going to find in your life. She cannot even finish a movie. So I didn't have any example, and I didn't have anyone teaching me that since I was a child. So I had to kind of really think about it and put together strategies to be able to sort that out. So I think that's why I really make myself good in finding ways to achieve goals.
So it's almost like you're motivated by the fear of that reality, right? The whole, like, your identity. I think that's a true statement, that our identities are tied to things like that, which I don't think it was a misnomer or inaccurate. It was just you were a small fish that went into a bigger pool all of a sudden, right? And that reality was different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So honestly, I study later. I read about that. I read a little about that with psychologists and people that talk about it later in life, obviously. Not at that moment. At that moment, the only thing I did was visiting the library, taking the most basic book with all of the shame of feeling like this was a first grade book, and started from the first page trying to do the exercises. And in the meantime, all of my tests, it was like a 0, and I would cry about it. And then I would go to the library and try to do a little something else. And I think one of the things that helped me a lot in that process was allowing myself to feel proud of little achievements. Like, okay, I learned how to do this. I'm still getting a 0, but at least now I know how to do this. And honestly, it took me about a year to get to the point where everyone else was. I was also taking, like, the school was providing nivellation, like extra lessons, and I was going to the extra lessons. But all of this process was torture. So it was very, very difficult, and I was struggling the whole time. I was suffering. So that's not what I want to say people to do, or I will advise to anyone, because I don't want people to suffer to get to a certain point. I want people to enjoy that. And there's strategies to do that I discovered later on.
Well, actually, Kevin, that reminds me of your favorite saying.
Through pain comes growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Explain that a little bit, because I mean, I'm sensing that the whole time Cammie's explaining this.
Yeah, and the analogy that I always use is like when you go in, and if you're lifting weights and you're exercising, what's actually happening to the muscle is you're getting small micro tears in the muscle, right? And then you give it time to heal and it comes back stronger. So it's that continual breaking down and building up. And I think one of the important parts, especially when it comes down to learning, is there's value in that struggle. There's value to go through. And just as Cammie had pointed out, even though that, you went to the library, you also have to have those small wins to keep the motivation going, right? And in the absence of that, it really makes it difficult to go on. So there's a level, I think, of perseverance that needs to come from internally, for us to be able to recognize that this pain that we're going through is for a reason and it's for our benefit. And I think once that trigger is switched, then you have that focus that's necessary to be able to move that forward and recognize it is going to be painful, but it is to my benefit, to go through that pain.
Well, Cammie, so share with us what you were going to say about what you learned, or how about setting those goals. What were you going to share about that?
Yes. So what Kevin is saying is totally right. The problem is where that motivation came from. So in my
Mhm.
case, at that moment in time, the motivation was coming from disappointment with myself. And that is a destructive cycle at the end of the day. So the problem with this kind of thing is I don't have the habit, so I don't know the behavior. The motivation came from a feeling of shame. So I had this motivation, but the motivation is always going to be short-lived. You're not going to stay motivated forever because that's an emotion passed. So then you start seeing it as an obligation and as a responsibility. It's something you have to do. And when it comes from shame and you see that responsibility and obligation, this is an extrinsic motivation. It's outside yourself and it's outside of your control. So every time you fail, you feel that as shame. You feel that that is kind of a wound to yourself. You think you're useless, that you are not creative, that you don't have the motivation, that you are not suited for it. For example, doing exercise, I don't have the consistency. I don't have the discipline. I'm too weak. I am too late for this. So all of that end up forming false belief and a false sense of identity that tells you I'm not good for this. And a lot of kids go through this and they end up in this belief, I'm not good for school. I'm not good for programming. I'm not good for learning languages. I can't do it. And that is a false belief. But having that false belief protect you from keep failing and failing hard. So if I don't try, I'm not going to get hurt. So I can just say
Right.
I'm bad at math and stop trying. And I'm not going to be getting hurt anymore because I already kind of give that up. So how do we escape that false belief, that false rigid identity that came from shame is actually shifting the source of the motivation. Motivation is never going to be a constant. So instead of thinking, I have to do this, this is my responsibility, this is an obligation, you have to say, I am choosing to do this, even if I'm not good at it. If I try it enough, I'm going to get to that point. And that changes from fixing yourself, fixing what's wrong with yourself, that I'm not good enough, to knowing yourself and improving yourself. I'm going to take one step at a time and I'm going to get there. So that is not coming from shame. We are not supposed to feel shame when we are incapable of doing something. That is an opportunity for learning. And parents, guardians, other people honestly have a really big role in this. Instead of punishing someone when they are not achieving the goals that you are expecting, try to frame it like, why are you not achieving these goals? Why you want to learn math, for example? Do you want to be uneducated? Do you want to end up depending on other people? Or do you want to be able to, be self-sufficient with these things for yourself? When you see it as a choice, it takes the shame out of the equation, and you are still going to struggle and you're still going to go through all of that. But then you have agency. And when you have agency, you can think instead of what's wrong with me, what's right with me.
There's so many things that came into my head as you were saying that. First, number one is that if you, because I have been there where you protect yourself. So if I don't try, then I'm not going to get hurt that way. But you are 100% guaranteed to not have success. I mean, it's a guaranteed thing, right? Because you're
Exactly.
not trying. But number two, Kevin, I also heard your statement of when opportunity, remember? How do you say that one? When
When
preparation.
preparation, yeah, but it basically is kind of describing, when people say you're lucky, and luck in that sense, it's like this chance, and it's not. And instead, it's when preparation meets opportunity. The things that you do, that step that you take today is setting you up for the next step that you take tomorrow. And at some point, there will be an opportunity that you have advanced to, that when those two things come together, you may be viewed as lucky, but you know that it was very deliberate, it was very intentional. You understood what went through, what process you went through to get to that point. So it really is a matter of, it's the first, the first step of that journey, and you don't know necessarily where it's going to end or when those opportunities come available. But the one thing that you can control is how you behave and how you respond to that diversity, to those challenges, and continually just taking one step after the other and growing.
I think there's something about I say work ethic, but it might be something else besides that. But there's the feeling that you get when you've struggled and something doesn't come natural for you. And you've, even like you said, you were starting to set these little things. I still have a 0, but look at what I just did. And you can start to acknowledge those little things that you've grown on, because those are the preparation things. Those things start to build up. You're building habit. You're helping your mindset, but it's the all of those things together before you know it. Cause I think our plan is not necessarily always the plan that we're going to end up on also. So you don't know where you're going to be, but those little bits of earning it, nobody else can do that for you. And you only get it. You don't get it if everything comes easily for you. You only get it when things are challenging and you have to test yourself and you have to put in the extra work and you have to go and learn something that you think you're not good at or is not natural for you. So when you said math, Cami, I'm laughing because I know that myself, both of my daughters, we all feel like we're crummy at math. And I find myself still, we'll go somewhere and I have to do math on the fly. If I can't pull out my phone, I just go, and my brain stops working. I could figure it out, but that old fear thing comes in and it overtakes me. And I just look to Kevin and go, okay, you're the computer. Like you do it, which is not the best thing for me. But I've even felt that as an adult that I'm like, I still go, I don't know this, or I feel like I don't know this. Everybody's looking at me and now my brain stopped working, type of thing. Right. So this is real stuff. It might not be math. It's going to be different things for different people. But part of what's really cool, like the tech thing alone, Cami, you have software development background, but that doesn't mean you're an expert in all of those things. You had to decide, if I want to do the best job possible for this, then I want to know the most that I can and have experience in making mistakes in this so that when I'm teaching others, I've got something of value to add, right? I'm assuming with your music or with writing your book, did you have similar types of things that came upon?
Very similar things. Well, first, I wanted to mention with what you were saying that yes, we have to see it like as achievement and not focus on the shame, but that's really difficult because the school system focus on shame constantly. They grade us, they tell you you are not good enough. You need to be good enough. They never acknowledge if a kid had like a 0% and then they have a 10%, that is not going to be good perceived. It's going to be still shameful. Like you're
More
not good
failure.
enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I have one of my professors. Of course, I think that's illegal right now, but that at the time it wasn't. And he will kind of bring the test results and he will say, what are you, stupid? Are you retarded? Like, how can you not understand something so simple? You shouldn't be here. You're not good for this. And he will kind of throw the test on my table. So they reinforce that belief. So seeing that and say, no, because I know something that I didn't know last week is difficult and it's a choice that you have to make because the first instinct, the first voice that's going to come to you is going to say that. It's going to say you're not good enough.
That's the thing comes in abundance, right? We don't need other people adding it. We are already doing that ourselves. Like we don't need more of that. That's the opposite of motivating anybody. So maybe that person sounds like they have some of their own stuff they're dealing with. I feel like we forgot to mention, Cami, that your first language is not English. So
No,
where
it's
do you
not.
live? And tell us about you there, because I think we forgot to introduce that part of you.
Yeah, I live in Chile. So English is my second language. And actually, English is one of the things I struggled the most when I was in high school. I was the worst in my class in English. So yeah,
I think you do just fine. That I've worked with you you now do some Spanish speaking deliveries, but you're doing primarily English speaking. You lived in Canada, you've lived in Japan, you've lived all over the world in places that are not Spanish speaking, and you've hit it out of the park in an English, first language type of scenario. So that's also, I feel like we kind of didn't explain that, but they're probably catching your you have a little bit of an accent, right? So they're probably catching that as the audience. Yeah.
I'm sorry for that. And I know my accent is kind of really thick, but I'm self-taught. Actually, I'm thinking about taking lessons to kind of polish that a little bit, but I learned English on my own, again, because I was very, very behind. So I had to start studying it on my own.
Yeah. Don't apologize for your accent. It's amazing.
It is.
Yeah, you do really well.
Cami always says amazing. So whenever I hear that word, that is always Cami. Anyways, yeah. So I want to ask you about like setting the goals, the habit it takes, and then exceeding the goal. So I think that explains the where it came from, shame and not wanting to feel that way. Do you think the
Yes.
first time that you kind of had success with whatever you put your mind to set that? Because if you've heard of the growth mindset or the scarcity mindset, to me, it's like you shifted your brain from scarcity to growth and went, I want to do this. And so I'm going to take all those things out. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be challenged or you're not going to have, things that are hard along the way, but it's literally looking, going, what are all the things that I want to do? And why do I want to do them? Understanding yourself. So what would you add there, Cami?
Absolutely. And I think that kind of linked pretty well with something that Kevin said before. People talk about luck. They also talk a lot about inspiration. They also talk a lot about talent. I cannot draw. I don't have the talent. People is born with talent. I don't have it. I draw and it's awful. I cannot sing. I don't have the talent. I don't have the voice. How am I going to be a singer? Maybe I want to do it, but I don't have the talent. Well, breaking news for everyone. Nobody is born with talent. Have you seen the child drawing? None of them is going to do a masterpiece. They all do these ugly scribbles. Like no one is born with talent. That's a myth, and it's a very hurtful, very, very harmful myth. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as talent. We all have potential, and that is universal for every person. And yeah, maybe some people has a little bit more predisposition to certain things, but honestly, with a little bit more or less of effort, you're gonna get to the same point. And I always say the same thing. Maybe you're not gonna be Mariah Carey, because that depends, of bone structure, your lung capacity. But you know what? Bad Bunny is also very successful, and the guy cannot sing a note.
You know what? That
So
brings me to another thing, Cami. Oh, go ahead and finish your thought, and then I'll bring up my point because I think this is really interesting. You just opened up another thought I had. Go ahead, finish.
yeah, so I was gonna say, like, if you wanna do something, do it with your capacities and at your level. Don't try to paint like the chapel. Try to make a little bit of a tiny illustration of a cat, and you're gonna be successful with that. And people is gonna say, "Oh, that's a really nice cat." You don't need to make, write an opera. You can write a very simple ukulele song, and that is just as valuable. Like we have different levels of skills, but all of that is valuable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's perspective. So the other day, you and I were talking because sometimes I get on my own case, right? And I'm like the math thing or whatever. I'm like, I think I'm logical, but I think one of my things is I don't think I'm as intelligent as other people, right? Sometimes. And I definitely say stuff like that to Kevin. But you made me feel good and you said you're smart in a different way. Do you remember that conversation?
But yeah,
So just highlight what you said because I've go ahead.
I admire you a lot because you are extremely, extremely smart in a way that I am not. You are so good for motivating people, for making them feel good with what they're doing, comfortable, and kind of wanting to improve themselves. You are good at convincing people of doing things and kind of getting them in the right mindset for growth. And that is a challenge because as I saw you, it took me so many years, and I've seen you taking one classroom and making everyone put themselves in the right mindset in a second. So being able to persuade people, being able to talk to people and make them feel good, having this interpersonal intelligence, that's a talent, honestly. I don't have it. It will have been so helpful for me to know someone like you when I was a child. That's extremely valuable. So I appreciate that a lot about you. I say that to everyone.
No, I wasn't looking for a pat on my back, but I do think it kind of triggered something in me that went, we're only taught in school that it's the way that you complete your grades, right? Or that you're athletic, or it's certain things like that. So that brought me to do some research. And so there's a gentleman named Howard Gardner, and there is a legitimate study or I guess methods. I don't know if exactly this is a methodology or exactly where the research came from. It came from 1983. But anyways, this gentleman, Mr. Gardner, came up with what's called 12 types of intelligence. I just want to read some of these to you because I can look at this and I can go, oh, Kevin, you definitely, I can see, have these different things. Cami, you have these things. I don't think I realized. I always equated my ability to sense other people and where they're at and how they are and connecting with people as more of like an emotional intelligence thing, which I think it is. But it's actually a form of intelligence. So let me read some of these to you. And I just
All
want you to
right.
kind of think through which of these you would say. I think we all have a blend of them, but some of them we're going to have a more aptitude for, right? So the first one is linguistic, or what they would call word smart. So like strength in language, writing, storytelling, and public speaking. So framing goals clearly, communicating vision. I can think of people that definitely have that. The second one, logistical or mathematical. So strength in problem solving, analysis, and patterns. And this is Kevin for sure. The third one is spatial or picture smart. So ability to visualize and think in images. So I personally have a lot of a hard time imagining something like we'll go and look at a house and I'm like, I can't, like if it's not built, I can't see. If the walls aren't there, I cannot see what it's going to be. I don't have that. Right. So
So when I'm
that's the,
writing, I can see legit, I can see a whole movie in my head. Like I
so
am
you
in that
have
place.
that. Yes.
Yes.
So that's spatial or picture smart, musical, sound smart, sensitivity to rhythm, tone, and sound. So using rhythm to flow or maintain habits, staying in sync. A lot of people with that one. The fifth one is bodily or kinesthetic. So body smart. So strength and physical coordination, learning by doing. So this is like we talk about being kinesthetic and that sort of thing. I definitely have this. I think you both do. Six is this is that thing that I think I naturally have, the interpersonal or people smart, skill in understanding and working with others, useful for like accountability, collaboration, motivating teams. We did that
You have
working
a lot of
genius
that.
assessment. My genius is galvanizing. So that is where my sweets, I love it. I love to get other people motivated and excited, right? Let's see, that was people smart. Then seven is intrapersonal or self smart. Self awareness, reflection, and understanding your own emotions. So, this is a little bit of an EQ thing, knowing when to push or rest, staying disciplined. Kevin, you have this. I think, Cami, you have this. So, it's things that I think we can observe some of these things in other people. Eight is naturalistic or nature smart. So sensitivity to nature, patterns, the environment. So useful when creating balance, spotting systems, grounding routines. Kevin, you say this about yourself all the time. It's about the patterns. You watch the patterns. You sit back and observe, and that's something you take in. That's a natural intelligence that you have. Nine is existential or big picture smart. So ability to think about meaning, purpose, and big questions. This is helpful when connecting goals to deeper values, long-term motivation. Interesting. 10 is teaching or pedagogical. So coaching smart. Definitely, like I can think of some of the people we work with. I have some of this, but I definitely can see some other people. Strength in explaining, teaching, and guiding others. Useful for sharing knowledge, holding others accountable, reinforcing learning. Definitely this comes out in the learning world where we all are at. It also is very obvious when people don't have this in the world that we're in, right? It's kind of the missing link. You might have the technical and all these other things, but that piece is important. 11 is digital or tech smarts or comfort with digital tools, systems, and technology. Useful for tracking habits, using productivity tools, leveraging apps. We definitely all have that. And then the last one, creative or innovation smart. So strengthen imagination, originality, and fresh ideas. Useful for starting strong, solving problems in a new way, keeping energy alive. What do you think of that? Cam, you go first. Tell me what thoughts entered your mind.
I'm very creative, definitely. I have some of those, but I can say, for example, there's some that I don't have. Like I'm not very coordinated. Like I'm very silly with my body, but I still can dance. I took lessons and I can do something. I'm very silly with that, but I learned to skate and I am kind of improving in that. So even if you are not at your strongest at something, you can still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Kevin? Any of those hit home for you?
Oh, yeah. I think part of it, as you had mentioned, for me, if people were to observe me, they'll say that I'm quiet, and that quietness is really more in line with I'm very discerning, and I don't necessarily say anything until I've got a bigger picture. So the observation and the input is something that I really value as opposed to what I contribute or the output. And I think that's, you know, what I think is really important if I were to kind of look at the overall theme for what we're talking about here is identifying people that have those attributes or those approaches that we want to grow into. It kind of goes back to what we've talked about before with modeling. If you have somebody that is very good at something, raise them up as the example and then point to everybody else and say, that's where we want to go, to be able to build this capability. So just to kind of circle back, I wanted to ask Cami as well. So if you were to identify what are your top 3 goals right now, how do you identify and how do you maintain the focus, for achieving those goals that you have for yourself right now?
All right. So right now, I will say I want to finish my second book. And this has been much more challenging because I'm doing like a story that is far more complicated. I want to get good in ice skating because I'm traveling to Canada to a place where you can skate in lakes. And that's a dream of mine that I've always had. Like, it sounds so amazing. So I really, really want to do that. And I want to learn French.
Awesome.
So those are like my top 3 goals at this moment. I can give a little bit of an advice. And I think this especially came forward when you're writing books, because that's by far the hardest thing I've ever done. Like it's harder than learning IT. It's harder than being an engineer. It's even harder than getting my thesis for my degree done, I will say. God damn. I will say this. Don't wait for inspiration. That will be the first thing. Inspiration is never going to be constant. Motivation is never going to be constant. You're going to have one idea, one moment, you're going to see one image and say, oh, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. And maybe you're going to see it and write 20 pages. You are not going to stay inspired for 200, 300, 400 pages. That goes away. You start with motivation, you start with inspiration, but that is an emotions, and emotions go away, they pass. And then you are left with discomfort. And we're human beings, we're animals at the end of the day. We want to avoid discomfort. So what happened is that when we reach this point of resistance, your brain say, let's do the dishes. Let's clean up the room. Let's, scroll in TikTok. Yeah, let's do something else. You distract yourself. And this is an involuntary process. So you encounter resistance, you distract yourself to avoid discomfort. And our brain is very good at picking up that things and forming beliefs. So when you avoid that, your brain is going to take that as evidence and reinforce the idea that, oh, I cannot do it. With time, you're going to start thinking like, I'm not disciplined. I cannot do it. It's too hard for me to do. I get distracted too easily. I cannot do it. And this is when we can, and it's super easy actually. Here is when we can intervene in this cycle. So when you encounter this point of resistance, that a lot of people say like writer block, or you kind of feel your mind in blank, you don't have any ideas, this point of resistance that you feel that you cannot go forward, don't allow yourself to be distracted. Do something to bring yourself back to a place of comfort. So this can be eating something nice, take a cup of wine, go for a walk, but get yourself bored. Embrace boredom. Don't distract yourself with entertainment. Get bored. Go walk without music. Just walk. When your brain is bored, when you start when you don't have this stimulus coming back and you are comfortable again because you're doing something nice and you are bored, your brain is going to say, you know what? Actually, we can do this. You start producing ideas again. And you go back to that point in which you can create, in which you can be productive. And it's not from a place of struggling. It's not, hitting your head on the keyboard and punishing yourself. It's just allowing yourself to be bored. There's studies that have come only 1 hour of boredom a day can help your brain grow new neurons, can prevent dementia, can prevent Alzheimer. We need boredom because if you don't have boredom, you don't feel the need to create or to do. So actually, the best hack that I can give anyone is when you start feeling discomfort, don't distract yourself. Do something nice for yourself and get bored.
You know what? Nice. I sat in a steam room today and I felt the most amount, because it's just me. I didn't bring my phone or anything in. And I was like, it was the most clarity I've had in such a long time of just sitting there quiet and kind of bored. That's such a good point. And basically the other thing I
amazing.
heard from you, plan for that. So know when you're going to do this thing, so that's part of your discipline of when this hits, I already have this plan. So I'm going to be bored and I'm going to get re-inspired again. I love it.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so good.
that's fantastic advice, Cami.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So
Kevin, do you
honestly,
have
that's the
to,
trick.
that's so good. Kevin, do you have to get going?
I do. I'm gonna bail out, Cami. As always, it's always fantastic talking with you and getting a little bit additional insight other than what we do on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and drop off. You can continue the conversation. And I wish you both a fantastic evening, Leanne. And for you, Cami, your day is just beginning in Chile. And
Yeah,
thank you
kind of.
again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So
It was
awesome.
really nice seeing you too.
All right. Bye bye.
That kind of works a little better.
Anything else you would like to say? Because I think that's really interesting how the mind actually works. Because the thing that we all
Yeah.
know is that we constantly have our phones or we constantly have something or turn on the TV and watch Netflix or whatever it is. It's crutch, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is kind of killing your growth. Absolutely. So we need. I was born in the age like this started kind of exploding, and when I was young, I was like, why would you limit screen time? Why would you do any of that? But the older I
Mm-hmm.
get, the more I realize that is very damaging to yourself to be having this constant feed of stimulus. Um, Spending time away from screen is so valuable for everyone. Yeah, I actually have another little tip that will help you if you are struggling to finish or continue something. I was just kind of looking and I write it down because that's extremely useful. Like, let's say, for example, you're writing a story. I always go back to stories because that is extremely difficult to do. Like, I always say, like, it's much harder than, doing your job, being an engineer, because that's kind of, you only have to try it until you make it. So, but when you are building a story, everything needs to make sense. The characters need to be alive. You need to understand what they are doing. All of the plots, like the timelines, need to align. Is so much that it's very difficult. Sometimes can feel overwhelming, and you end up like in these blocks very often. That's why the writer block is such a thing. So the other thing, besides getting bored, that I said before, is so I will go out, like, let's say, drink a little cup of wine, let myself regulate your nervous system, go down to that stress feeling. When you are feeling nice again, go back. And even if you don't have any idea, just write one sentence. Even if it's just one sentence, that is going to take you away from the I cannot continue moving forward to I did something. If you are like, I cannot draw anymore, just take something simple like watch your cat and do a sketch of your little cat. I cannot continue this story. Think about one of your characters and try to write a poem related to them. Just doing that little action is going to train your brain instead of thinking I cannot do it to I can do it. And it will keep you motivated and keep you moving forward.
I was even thinking about those of us that have struggled with weight loss. It's very much the same mental game. Very much. Because it's like, I can't lose
Yes,
70 pounds, but I can get out and I can walk for 20 minutes. There's a
exactly.
whole thing about your body being in motion and doing something, you're going forward, you're making some sort of movement. It's so simple that it's like it gets lost in the noise of everything, isn't it?
It
Really.
is. And I see it like with my whole heart because I was stuck for so long in this very destructive cycle in which I was failing. I will give my 100% until I completely burn out. And then I will end up depressed. And I couldn't do anything. I lost all motivation. I couldn't even listen to music because that's what depression does to you. And then when I was getting out and I was like, I need to catch up because I am behind now, but because I lost so much time. So I will do and push forward when I didn't want it to, when I was feeling bad, when I was having panic attacks, still like, I need to do this. It doesn't matter. Ignoring my emotions, ignoring the signals from my body, and then end up burnout again. And this cycle of doing a lot, ending up burnout, having to recover, doing too much again, ending up burnout, it wasn't sustainable. But I was like very at a loss on how to move forward. I went to therapy. They couldn't give me any productive advice. They were like, well, if you're depressed, just, get out, do things. That made me feel worse because I'm losing my time. I'm not being productive.
Right
So,
now,
and
you're
that
even set back more, is how you felt, right? Yes,
exactly.
I've been
So it
there. Yeah.
reinforced the negative part. So it wasn't useful. So how you move forward for that is actually listening to your body and allowing yourself to fail. And I love that you say this in classes a lot, like fail quickly. When you fail, it means that you are learning. If I only dedicate myself to do software engineering, I never fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can do it. I can just I have to do, this endpoint. I will just program. If it's not working, I will just keep testing until it works. There's no way to fail. There's not that end in which you are not going to be able to move forward. But if I want to write books, then I will continually keep failing. And making that decision was taking the decision of stepping out of the comfortable path and realizing that I was going to just fail. And that sounds like, why would you want to write books or change yourself and be a creative if you are going to just continuously keep failing? It's because you have to change that mindset of failing as something bad and
Right.
see it as an opportunity for learning. And honestly, I don't know if people watching this podcast, they probably don't know. Me and Leanne work training people. So we train teams to work, we train people. And the thing I love the most of this program, honestly, Leanne, and I recognize you have a part on this. I know a lot of other instructors have a part on this. What I love the most of this program is that we don't grade people. We don't evaluate them. We don't put a number on what they are doing, but we teach them to kind of focus on what they can learn and what they are lacking and put forward on that and making it entertaining for them, making it an outlet in which they can be creative, in which they can fail safely, in which they can fail without judgment. And what I've noticed, not only in all of the programs that we have made, is that in university, people suffer. Like the depression rates in university students are the highest. The suicidal rate in university students are the highest in every country. Chile, one of them, we have one of the highest rates of depression in university in the world. Japan as well. So many students kill themselves for this. But in our
Yeah. It's such
classroom,
a waste.
people is
Yeah.
excited to learn. They are having fun and they learn more than we are asking for them. We are asking them, just learn this. And then they go and study in their home. And they are like, I went to bed at 2 a.m. because I was so interested in learning this. And you see the motivation coming from inside and they learn so much more than if we were actually pushing them and grading them. And I've seen the success of this model is that they learn more and they are happy at the end of the program versus in
Well,
university where people struggle and they don't learn as much and they all end up feeling miserable.
because it's kind of that same thing you were explaining with the burnout, because it's driven by passing a test instead of what are you actually learning to apply. But also, I think in what we do and other things I've done over the last 20 years, I've kind of done the similar model. Not all software engineering, but it's more like the task may seem like it's go learn, you're gonna work on this project and write this code or do this thing, but what they actually learn is multifaceted. And some of the biggest, most enriching parts is learning about that thing that you were explaining, learning about I can get out of my own way, I can give myself grace, I can fail, and every time I fail, as long as I'm not repeating that and I want to change that, I can build building blocks off of that. But also they're learning how to be with other people, which is, it does not
Yes,
matter how hard the technical thing is or whatever that tactile thing is. The working with other people, very simple to understand, very hard to put into action. And that's the part where that we're teaching them to fail early and fail often,
absolutely.
because it's about that usually, right? Yep.
And honestly, talking about that, to remember what we talked before, like once motivation, once inspiration pass, you encounter discomfort and then you distract yourself. So in the courses that we do, we keep them in that feeling of discomfort because we never give them enough time to feel comfortable with anything. Since they keep feeling discomfort and pushing forward, they learn that they can overcome that and they feel comfortable with failing, they get comfortable with that feeling of discomfort. So then they don't need the security of a known tag and they are willing to take rest and they are willing to learn. And honestly, that's brilliant. That's genius. Not only you, for everyone that have been part of developing these programs, they are amazing. I see that because I have both sides. I've been in both sides. I struggled so much in university, in high school, because as I told you, like I was in a very bad position at the beginning. So I see this and I see the value it has, not only because it gives a lot of value to the people that is learning, but because it also teach them that they don't need to suffer to achieve their goals. And honestly, this, you say the name of the episode is Stop Starting, Start Finishing. You can do that when you don't feel pressure. You can start any project that you want when you're not afraid to fail, when you don't feel that that is going to affect your self-image. Nowadays, there's a lot of cringe culture in TikTok, like especially in TikTok in the young generation. They are afraid to do anything because they are afraid of being cringy. They are afraid of people judging them. Let people judge. You are never going to start being good. You need to go through all of those uncomfortable, not very flattering phases to get to do something good. And the other thing is like, like I mentioned Bad Bunny before, but I'm gonna mention something different. I love using Bad Bunny as an example because he's such a bad singer. But a lot of people will say like, Mariah Carey is an amazing artist, right? But then what about Imagine Dragons? A lot of people love Imagine Dragons. I love Imagine Dragons. The music of Imagine Dragons is amazing. Leanne, a lot of people hate Imagine Dragons, especially music students. Music students hate Imagine Dragons. You know why? This is so funny.
No. Why?
They have full songs with only 2 charts.
So
they have
it's like a
20 songs with the
musical.
same 3 charts. The composition is so simple that is insulting for a lot of students of music. They are like, come on, they cannot put just 3 charts in a song and calling it like, but you know what? People love it because it's beautiful. Because you don't need to do something extremely complicated for it to be good. And that is very important for people to learn. Like, you don't need to write a masterpiece in your first try. You can write a very simple story because you
Right.
have the skills to do that.
Simplicity.
And then as you
Yes.
learn more, you can be doing things that are more complex. But that doesn't mean that the simple thing is not valuable. Children's stories have the same value that, I don't know, Dante and the Divine Comedy. So just take your level of skill, do something that align with your level of skill. And when you finish that simple thing, you're going to be better. You're going to be able to do something better. But it's valuable and it's finished.
It's so true. And actually, as you were talking, I would not consider myself a Swiftie by any means, but as you were talking about that, I was thinking, when I think of what Taylor Swift is good at, it's not that she's the best singer. And actually her music a lot of the time sounds the same, but she's one of the biggest stars globally, right? Because I think there's authenticity to her. She owns her stuff and she's an amazing songwriter. So it's not about, she doesn't sing like Adele or like these other people. That's not what it's about. So I think it's a really good message. We all show up in the world with whatever I was going to say talents, but whatever that is that we're going to show up with, right? It's like, at the end of the day, I think we need to be authentic to ourselves. So Cami, you and I going to write a book are not ever going to write the same type of book, right? That's not the way it's going to work, but there's value, right, in that. And even like people with technical skills, for some people that have been, like we work with facilitators that have been in engineering for 20 some plus years. It's very simple to them. They're not really going to be challenged. They'll be challenged with like some technical troubleshooting, but they're never going to feel that thing they have to conquer the way you do. However, we deal with people who are changing careers midway through. They were a hairdresser or they worked at an auto service place and now they want to go and they want to try this new career. they are up against that. They can totally do it. And you know what? They're going to think different than the people who went through the traditional schooling. So that is the thing, right? You need to know what is it that you want to go out into the world and do. Set your goals, set your mindset, plan to be bored, and
Yes.
do your
And
best,
set
right? Just put it out there.
exactly. And set simple goals at the beginning. Don't try to go and build a chapel if you don't know how to build a bench. So start small, start with something that you can do. Because like if you are an illustrator, you can paint the Mona Lisa, that's amazing, right? But if you make just like a couple cat sketches, you can still print stickers and sell them and you still finish
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
So there's value in simplicity that people tend to overlook. There's a lot of value in simplicity. Start small, start with something that you can do, and then challenge yourself to go a step forward. And you're going to see you can finish stuff. Having a hobby doesn't mean that you cannot do valuable stuff. So I will encourage everyone that if you have a hobby, like you like to sing karaoke, instead of just doing it like in the comfort of your room, like prepare one song, prepare it well, go to a bar, sing it, and you're going to have the reinforcement. I did a presentation, and it's really good. Maybe go and hire a study that is very, very cheap for an hour and record it and put it on Spotify. Take the chance. Well, if someone think it's bad,
Awesome.
well, that
Yeah.
doesn't affect you at all. But if people listen to it, then you have a song and people is listening to it. Maybe I'm not a good singer, an amazing singer or a really good singer, but I have like about 2,050, like about 2,000 people that listen to my music every month on Spotify. And I was just like, like for those people, it's something valuable. And I feel so good about it. So start doing
Awesome. Love
that
it.
kind of
You know
stuff.
what though? It's that it's eating the little frogs too, right?
Yeah.
There's something with that. So setting the mindset for everybody in the audience, you can't go and conquer the whole world. You can't turn the whole ship around in one fell swoop. So what is it? Just some forward action. If you're losing weight, if you're learning how to code, if you're going to write a book, if you're whatever that is, start with something simple. So it's like base hits is what we would say, like baseball. Just get on the first base, get on the next base, get on the next base, right? And that is, it's the perpetual motion. And the more that you do that, I think it is that awful negative, whoever we have inside our heads that stops us. The one guarantee is that if you don't try and you don't do something, you're guaranteed to never have success there. That's 100% given, right? You got to
Yeah.
do the little hits. Yeah.
And
Oh,
if you
so
have
good.
if you have a, we have been here for a while, but just a little other thing, like if you have a very difficult goal that you want to achieve, I follow this girl on TikTok and she's amazing. She wants to be a blow glass artist. So she wants to be able to do, like masterpieces with glass. And she did something that I love, and I think the idea is amazing. She made a skill tree. And this is like a tree with little circles. And for example, the first little circle is made glass Christmas decoration that is just making a bubble. Is the simplest thing that you can do with glass. And then the second one was like make a glass. And the third one was like, I don't know, make a pen. And the fourth one was like make a glass. And she took a book from the simplest thing and was setting like these very, very small goals. And then she has this skill tree. And like every 3 levels or something like that, she has like a prize for herself. So the first one, like make a little bubble. So when she made one correctly, she was so excited, 1 tick. And then consolidate the skills, do 2 more. And once she did that, she can move to the next level. And after she managed to make like a glass pen, and actually it's a glass ink pen that worked perfectly, she got a little prize. And this little prize can be something to do for yourself, like a spa day. And for her, it was also like buying something else for the craft. Like I get here, so now I'm going to buy this tool that is a little bit expensive. So I'm going to put this in here. And you can see every time like she tries something small is an achievement and it's something finished.
Well, it's also the visualization of the journey. So you
Yeah,
can
and you can
see
like
all
she
the
had it on the
things.
wall and she can do the checks. It's so good. I love that idea and it has worked like wonderful for her. I love it. It's so good.
That's so good. Well, we definitely went over on this, but I think it's awesome. Cami, maybe we'll do this again and we can have another conversation. I think this is fantastic. In fact, in this way, we normally do our podcast at our home office. I'm in Scotland right now, so it's virtual. I know the video doesn't look the same as it normally does, but in here we can actually go live. So this might be something down the road that maybe we'll go live and we can do it on X or we can do it on LinkedIn or whatever, TikTok maybe. So that could be a lot of fun, right? We could have a
A
conversation
lot
with
of
people around that.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
there's
it'd be
people
awesome.
interested in that, they can do they could ask questions in the chat or stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think that would be great.
Yeah. Yes, be very good. Well, I adore you. I thank you so much. And I always appreciate you. I appreciate your discipline, what you do and how you show up. And you're a mere 31 years old, right? So 31, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very good. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Cami.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun and I think a pretty interesting conversation. So I'm happy
Yeah.
to have been here.
Me too. Well, we'll get this out and then I'll ping you once it's available. So I'm gonna stop recording. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.